Welcome to the third of 4 Talkin' Trash and Tree community forums sponsored by the City of Harrisburg and its Environmental Advisory Council, and in particular the Public Works Department. I'm Bill Cluck. I'm the secretary to the EAC. We consist of 5 members. 3 are appointed by the mayor, 2 are appointed by City Council. Our purpose is to advise the city on environmental issues, such as trash and recycling and trees. We do have a social media presence. We are present on Twitter, and we have a Facebook page. And very soon, we're going to have a website, eventually, soon. We've made recommendations last year. We were very successful in our advice to the city. We made recommendations for the city to hire a recycling coordinator, an arborist. We were instrumental in having City Council fund a summer jobs program for 45 teenagers in the city. There was a wonderful article on the program on Penn Live recently. Hopefully it'll be in the print version tomorrow. I commend you go to Penn Live to see the coverage. This was an outstanding program and really did a great service for the city and particularly these teenagers. We also make recommendations on the use of the Host Municipality Benefit Fund. That is a fund that consists of $1 per ton for every ton of garbage that's processed at the Harrisburg incinerator. It consists of a few $100,000. It's mostly been used for the salaries for additional personnel on environmental matters such as our planning department, our recycling coordinator, and our arborist. But $25,000 is being allocated for use in the comprehensive plan process. So I commend you to visit bhbg.com website to continue to participate in that process and hit the like on things you like or make suggestions on where you want the city to go on environmental issues in the future. The EAC meets monthly. We meet on the 3rd Thursday of the month. Our next meeting is Thursday, October 15, 9 a.m. It's at 1820 Paxton Street, which is the city's Public Works building. And with that, if anyone feels they have a need for water, Capital Region Water has been kind to bring their award-winning water to our forum this evening. It's over here on my left, to your right. And I'm going to introduce the Vice Chair of the EAC, Rafiqa Mohammed, who will kick off the program and introduce the rest of the people up here with me. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for coming out this evening. What we're going to do, we're going to change our format a little bit this evening. This is the 3rd of 4 Talking Trash and Trees City Town Hall meetings. So what we're going to do is I'm going to introduce our panel tonight, and then we're going to go out to the audience and see what the audience has to say or give us some questions, answers, feedback, etc. Since we have a small group, we're going to work it like that this evening. If we had a much larger group, we would be writing down questions, etc., on cards to get the information to flow out a lot faster. One thing that I don't remember Bill mentioning, but we are working on a newsletter that we're getting ready to put out very, very soon. There's so much information that we have went over the past 2 meetings, and I'm pretty sure tonight all of it has not been the same. There's a lot going on as far as dealing with our trash and trees. There's a lot of programs that are coming up dealing with our trash and trees, and also including our water. People doesn't realize the trash and trees also impact our water and our stormwater, etc. So there's so much information we want to get out there to you. Looking forward, we want you to dialogue with us. There's ways that you can reach out to us to give us your feedback and any information that you might have. So first, we're going to start over here to my right. This is Sharice Grayer, and she is the Public Works Assistant to our Public Works Director, Aaron Johnson. We also have our new arborist here, who is Eric Josephson. I want to say Eric Iverson. I don't know why, but you know, we'll work. Bill Cluck, EAC member. John Merrick is our new recycle coordinator. Mayor Eric Pappus, who's the mayor of the City of Harrisburg, and Rosemary Nye, who is in the business department. So any billing questions you might have as far as dealing with your trash, you will contact Rosemary. So what we're going to do this evening is start out who would like to start off asking some questions to our panel. Yes, ma'am. And would you do me a favor? Can you please just say your name and just what area of Harrisburg you're from?
My name is Roberta Thomas. I'm pastor of the church at 14th and Dairy, 15th and Dairy. John and I have become good friends over the last 2 months. last week, so I brought a comrade who's also a pastor in the neighborhood. Our big concern is the fact that the non-residential customers have not received trash cans. And last week, we were informed that they would not be picking up church trash. Because I met John at CAC, he was able to help me through that problem. But there's still a problem where we're trying to work through, and that is the simple fact that there is a restaurant on the Dare Street side of my property, and there is a, shall we say, apartment house on the left side of my property on the Kitten Tinny side. And they don't have trash cans. According to what John was able to find out, the restaurant has a dumpster, and that dumpster is being used by the restaurant and the apartment on the parking lot side, but those folks on our side are putting trash in the street. I called the 311 number last week, within the last 2 weeks, to report the fact that we've got tires, we've got a TV, we've got a couch, now we've got a mattress, that as people move out of that building, they're dumping stuff on the street, and the people aren't picking it up. Now, we've told them, being good neighbors, so I don't know if it's a question, I guess I'm venting, but my question is, how can we help resolve that problem? I've got a neighbor across the street that's very effective in helping me do things for the church. He has a store on the bottom, and he lives on top. He got one trash can. They're two different entities. So we don't know how to deal with this, so any help that you can give us would be greatly appreciated.
So what we're going to do is, what I think we need to do is address the question to you, John, since you're already a little bit familiar with the situation, and also follow up with Aaron after John relates to the question as far as what we can do with the situation, and possibly some enforcement, and just getting it through people's heads that they have to utilize their trash cans, they have to comply with the city ordinances, what we're asking them to do, and they just have to cooperate, like we've been saying in the last several meetings. So John, would you like to address that?
Jessica, let me start.
Okay, sure,
I just
yeah.
want to give just a brief overview since we're
Sure,
out there communicating
sure.
with the public, and then we can talk about the specifics. The first issue which people need to understand is we have finished the rollout of the residential side of things, which was a big undertaking throughout the city, but we have not completed the trash can rollout for commercial accounts, of which in the city of Harrisburg, there are about 2,000, even more than 2,000 accounts. And quite frankly, it is a very complicated undertaking, because unlike the average resident, residents which wants one can or two cans, or in some cases maybe a smaller can or a larger can, on the commercial side, we had not done an audit in many, many years. So what we are finding is that the data that we have in the system may not match at all the realities on the ground of this restaurant or this apartment building that exists. So it requires a site visit, it requires an assessment of how much that business is generating in terms of trash, and then we need to get them the appropriate amount of these nice toters that we have, or a dumpster if it's a larger situation, and then adjust their bill accordingly. So we have been doing that throughout the city. And then you have another layer of complication on top of that, which is that the way the billing works, we're generally billing the property owner. But the property owner may rent to a store and have 5 apartments in there, and that information that's getting communicated to the owner may not be getting communicated to the actual tenants that are in the building. So it is going to take some time to complete that process, but we hope to have it done by the end of the year. That was always our goal. We started with commercial, we switched to residential over the summer, and now we're back on commercial. By the end of the year, the upshot of that is we'll have an accurate understanding of the billing for all of those commercial accounts, because we will have done the site visit, done the adjustment. So that's the big picture overall scheme. We're very much in process. We haven't completed. There were some mixed messages or some lack of clarity on the part of sanitation workers over the past few weeks about whether or not they should pick up trash which is not in city containers. And we have tried to explain to them, and I think we've generally tried to correct the problem, which is that we can't move to the enforcement side of things until we have finished the distribution of the new cans. But the hope of the new cans is that it is going to set the stage for enforcement as a real possibility. Once you have the new cans and you're being billed at that rate, you'll either, if you have more trash than fits in those cans, you'll either be given another can and assessed a larger amount on your trash bill, or there'll be a fine or a penalty for that extra dumping. But we haven't finished the rollout on the commercial side. So that's just the general overview, and now I'll hand it to John for specifics.
Well, the situation at the church on Dairy Street is an example of what you were just talking about, Mr. Mayor, where we have not managed to follow completely through on getting these commercial entities covered by our container program. And this is complicated by the fact that I believe the restaurant is collected by a private hauler at this point, and we need to change that arrangement, and we need to make sure that address has all the containers it needs. And my comrades and I in Public Works have talked about this to some extent, but I want to pass this to Aaron. Are you familiar with this place? It's the 1400 block, the south side of Dairy Street.
Dave's more familiar with it than I am. Dave went out there today.
Yes, I'm Dave West, Deputy Director of Public Works for the City of Harrisburg. And yes, we have visited this particular restaurant. Matter of fact, we started at the restaurant, which is at 15th and Dairy on the corner across the street from the church. We corrected that situation today. We gave them they had 2 toters. We gave them 2 more toters. We increased their bill, and we also informed them about our recycling program. So they're done, and that part is finished as far as 15th and Dairy. Now we're working towards 13th and Dairy in the restaurant row that you have there, and it's going to take some time. There's a lot of issues there at the different restaurants, but we have corrected a lot of issues that are on that row. We're in the process of doing that. We're going to, I particularly myself, am going to do that for the rest of this week. I'm going to correct the situations going along Dairy Street. And anything else that you have to inform us about that I can write down, we'll also be in path of correcting that. Thank you.
Just to piggyback on what Dave said, Pastor, and like you have been reaching out, call us. We need to know. We'll be right on top of it. But the biggest issues are some of that's illegal dumping. I mean, like it's, you know, we talk about this again and again and again, and we are, because you know, this problem has been here quite some time. It's not gonna go away just like that. Until we actually, you know, I wish the enforcement piece that we can put some people away. I mean, that's how bad illegal dumping is. I mean, anytime somebody can take a whole truckload of whatever and dump it on your property, that's a problem. I mean, a ticket, you know, you figure you give them a DJ, slap them on the head, give them a $30 fine or something like that. They'll take that every day instead of going down there paying that $190 at the incinerator. You know, I mean, I seen it out there before, but again, we collected. It'd be right back there when we get ready to pick up trash again. That's what we need to really work on. We got to catch some of these folks, and it's more of them than us. You know what I mean? And I feel your pain. I feel a whole lot of people's pain that sit out there because they're experiencing. I mean, you know, got Jeremy sitting out here, you know, and this is the third one I always, you know, bring his name up because he's one of the guys who I call for some of the areas that we can't get. You know, just keep this in mind. We have a big enough area that we cover right now, the sanitation workers themselves. Just for them to collect their trash themselves, it takes you 7.5 hours a day, you know? Okay, so now they gotta go around and pick up illegal dumping, they never get off. They never get off. Because when I take you down some of these alleys, a lot of these alleys, I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there. A whole lot of stuff in these alleys, okay? I have to, you know, be mindful of these guys who work for me too. They got families, they gotta go home too. Bed bugs, you know, it sounds like I'm repeating myself, but these are the honest things that's happening in the alleys. You know, when them apartments put that stuff out, you can believe that it's bed bugs on them 12 mattresses they sat out there. It's the reason why they sat them out there. You know, but they don't tell us that. So when we go there, I gotta make sure that they okay. So I have to take a whole nother vehicle to grab that stuff. I can't have them guys pick that stuff up. So we might not get it when you call or whatever, but we're gonna get it. But again, it's so many things that we have to accomplish during the course of a day. You know, and like I said, I really believe truly we're gonna get there, but this is gonna take some time because we got a lot of issues that we dealing with. You know, again, when that enforcement piece come, I'm hoping that not only in the city of Harrisburg, Dauphin County, all entities come together where we can kind of like, you know, get some of these illegal dumpers and really sock it to them, because, you know, it don't make no sense where they think that they can just dump on somebody's property like that. But pastors, I just want to let you know, just call us. We just got to keep on tackling it until we can get some license plates. I don't want you to get no confrontation or nothing like that. If you can get a license plate, that helps us out tremendously where we can deal with some of them issues.
Thank you, sir.
Hey,
And
Rafika,
also, yes,
Could I add something to that?
sure.
This is, I think the people here know that, but for the public watching on Channel 20, the city allows you to put out one bulk item per week. However, if you're moving out and you throw all your furniture and bed stuff out, I would consider that illegal dumping. And once we have our enforcement piece in place, I would say that not only the tenant, but perhaps the landlord should be made an example of and prosecuted for illegal dumping, so that people get the message, it's one per week, don't go over that. For those who observe illegal dumping, we all have our phones now and take pictures. Take a picture, if you can, of the vehicle, because there's provisions in state law that if you catch these people in the act, the state can confiscate their vehicle. So the illegal dumper coming from another area who gets caught, the State Department of Environmental Protection it's called forfeiture. They could lose the vehicle, and that's a tremendous incentive or disincentive to illegal dumping. Okay?
And I think some of that information that you said right there needs to be in our newsletter that we put out and promoting that kind of information. I just dealt with the same situation in my community right around the corner on Kirk Street. People are moving out and putting their furniture outside. And we're in our alleys yesterday cleaning up furniture, and it was just a mess. So people need to understand, I know there's people that get new living room furniture, instead of them calling Salvation Army or whatever, they just put it all outside. And my question to me is like, where do they think this stuff is going? Literally, where do they think that it's going? It's just sitting there. So I think this whole piece with the illegal dumping, enforcement, et cetera, is definitely one piece we can kind of put out there and let the community know we're not playing when it comes to that. We're really going to come down on people.
And there's one more important thing I want to add. Me and Dave ran into it today. You know, some of the landlords, right, when they evict someone, you know, and I mean, y'all see it, they'll put their whole house out on the sidewalk. I know y'all didn't rode past it. So when they evict someone, I mean, like, they definitely get some money from that tenant. When they move in there, they get a security deposit. So, you know, that security deposit is supposed to cover damages or what have you, okay? So what they do is, they evict them, they put their stuff out, but then what happens is, they think it's the guys that work on the sanitation truck that's gonna pick all that stuff up. And I'm talking about, when I said they put their whole house out on the curb, it's the whole house. I mean, like 3 bedrooms of furniture. We're not gonna pick all that stuff up. There's no way in the world. Again, like I said, they won't get done with their regular route. But why doesn't the landlord think that he's responsible for making sure that stuff gets down to the incinerator? But what happens is, they'll call 311, so now when they answer at 311, they'll say, well, isn't sanitation gonna get that? Well, maybe that person who answers the phone, and they might not say the correct thing. But they think that because we're sanitation, we're gonna pick all that up. That's not true. It is that landlord's responsibility to get that from out of their place, take that down to the incinerator. Now, if they don't get it up, and Miss Betty calls and say, hey, Aaron, hey, this stuff been sitting out here for 7 days, it's an eyesore, can you get it up? Then we get it up, we take that address, I give it to Rosemary, then we charge that landlord. That's the process. The process is not for us to pick up because you evicted him because he isn't paying you rent, but you gonna make us pay for all that. Nah, that's accountability should be on the landlord. That's the challenge that we have. So when it sits there, it's the reason why it's sitting there. okay? But then sometimes we don't see it. But you know, some of the residents is real good about keeping the neighborhood clean, and they'll call it in, and I don't blame you, and I don't have a problem with getting it. Again, like I said, sometimes we can't get there when you want us to get there, but we're gonna get it.
Aaron, what's the recovery of those dollars that are assessed against the landlord? Because in the city, we have a lot of landlords that are absentee landlords. They do not live, some don't even live in the country. I know a family that lives next to a property, and the person, they live in Israel. And they may come in once or twice a year. So if there's a violation, how do we collect those dollars, and are we successful in collecting those dollars?
Right now, Ms. Gloria, we're not as successful as we would like to be as far as collecting funds. You know, again, that would be codes getting involved with that, because I rely on Dave Patton to get some of them addresses. Like you said, we have absentee landlords. Doesn't live in the city, they're just gone, you know. But you still see trash be put out every week. So now you got people in there living in there illegally, you know. So again, you got these different challenges, and we need residents to, you know, call in, which some of y'all do, you know, when you see people over there tapping into people's electric and all that good stuff, and catch the whole row of houses on fire, you know. So,
Well, they're not always living there illegally. Some of them the properties are being managed by property managers and for the landlords. And so, you know, I don't know whether the property managers are making certain, you know, that the landlords get these notices, or they're just ignored for the most part.
Can I jump in? And I think that what you're pointing to is another issue, which is a general capacity issue within sanitation. And I think it's important to reflect that in a very short time, within the past year and a half, we have hired a recycling coordinator, we've hired our first billing coordinator, we have hired an arborist. All of this is new within the last several months. We inherited a public works department which had been neglected in terms of investment year after year for decades. The fleet was on its last legs. The number of workers was down to the smallest amount. I said at the last meeting, we didn't even have a public works facility. We had agreed to sell the facility without any place to put sanitation or public works. All of that has been corrected, and we started by putting money from sanitation, because sanitation brings in money, but reinvesting that money back into sanitation. And in year one, we bought the new cans, we got the lifts for the trucks, we fixed up the vehicles that we had. And we hired initial staffing. And Rosemary is basically an office of one that is responsible for everything. So between adjusting the commercial accounts, you know, sending out that additional letter to the landlord with the additional bill, that sort of thing is falling through the cracks. But we know we have to address capacity. So in next year's budget, you're going to see additional hires on the personnel side in sanitation. Ideally, we'd have another crew that could go out and collect those illegal dump sites and then generate a bill and an invoice for them. And we are planning to hire basically a sanitation lawyer or a litigator, a collections person who's going to work on the collections side. So Rosemary can be the nice person, the good cop, so to speak. But we can have somebody out there who's sending the follow-up letters, who's working with the property managers, the liaisons of the various owners, if possible, trying to collect the money. So that step is there. And we don't doubt for a second that it needs to be done, but we are in the process of building capacity, and we've built a tremendous amount of capacity in a short period of time, but there will be more to come.
I also know that one of the complaints is that when a landlord typically gets some type of a citation or fine, and they don't pay, it goes to the district justice. And that the district justice are very poor at giving fines that will make them take seriously, you know, the laws of the city. And so I had suggested several years ago that someone needs to sit down with the president judge and talk to the president judge about issues that are specific to the city as it relates to illegal dumping, you know, and other violations, so that when they go to a district justice, when they go to court, and are not getting a $30 fine. They're getting a fine that's hefty enough to take seriously our laws and rules in the city.
Yeah, Ms. Gloria, they have their own DJ for that, for illegal dumping. They have to have their own judge, so that part right there has been worked on.
Who is he?
I don't know. I don't even want to say it. I don't want to say it because I'm not 100% sure. But I know Judge Lanker at one time resided at one, but I'm not 100% sure.
Smith, right across from Dalton County.
Next question. Yes, sir.
Couple of things. First off, I take a little different stance because I really concentrate on the illegal dumping aspect of our city. And we come to these meetings and we're all asking these people that I know, most of them on a real personal basis, because I've seen their work ethic. And I see how much they try to do just on what they're supposed to do, how hard they work. I had a meeting with the director today, Aaron Johnson, and I go down there ready for this meeting. He can't have a meeting because he's out manning a dump truck, garbage truck. Everybody that I've met down at Public Works gives much more than we would ever expect from the old Public Works. This is not the old Public Works. But Bishop, I'm really sorry you didn't get in touch with me. That'll be picked up tomorrow, I'll give you my word. I saw it today. That's the first day I saw it. We need, as a community, to stop allowing other people to dictate what our quality of life is.
That's right.
Okay? Nobody's gonna dump on my street. I'm not gonna allow it. And I'm not asking anybody to put themselves in harm's way, but I grew up when, you know, if somebody was messing up, we as a community told them they were messing up. And I didn't point at the deputy director, I didn't point at the mayor and say, you know, you should be doing this and you should be doing that. We go out and we did it. And that's not happening anymore. We're spending so much time pointing at our finger at what is not being done, and 90% of what's not being done is being done by illegal activity. And I really think that Public Works, Mr. Rarick, I know with Rosemary how hard she works. Even with Bill leading the EA as he does, they need a lot more public praise than the condemnation that I seem to hear a lot of. And it really, if they would walk in their shoes for a day, ride in my truck for a day, you know, maybe we'll see the difference in how much needs to be done yet and how much we've already accomplished. Last total of illegal dumping this morning, 76,840 pounds.
Thank you.
But
Next question.
Well, I had the opportunity after the last meeting last week. I went out with this man in the truck. Went to the incinerator, we made 5 trips. What an experience, what a lesson. You know, what he's talking about with people, what they have to go through, get this, you know, once they've got the stuff up, what they've got to go through to get rid of it. But I had the opportunity too to walk some of the alleys and things, and like you were saying, Aaron, that you know you need to talk to the people. Well, I started talking to some people, and some of the answers I don't think you're going to want to hear them, but I'll tell you, one person, he was out working on his car, and I said there was trash around there and a couple of the small cans. I said, "What's with the you know? Did you get your big can?" He said, "I'm moving. I don't care." I had 2 or 3 people tell me it's no different than it was before. That it's kind of haphazard being picked up anyway. That's just a couple of things that I ran into to relate those to you so you can work on them. But I will be going back out with him again the first chance we get because I've got a better understanding of what you guys are going through. And I will take credit for, you remember not too long ago there was a rather large dump over by Joshua Farms. That was me that turned that in. And I keep monitoring that area. We cleaned up another 2 dumps down there last week that were illegal. And he got some forensic evidence for them, so hopefully we can do something with it. But like you said, give them a break, give them a chance, because they are trying. And go ride a truck, or go down to that incinerator and see what they got to go through to dump the stuff. And I think they'll have a better appreciation what these guys are all going through. But we gotta get out to the people, because there's a lot of apathy out there. A lot of people just don't care. They
Well,
just
they don't care,
care.
they're misinformed, they're miseducated, misinformation, no communication. So we got a lot of layers that we're
You gotta-
working
you gotta
through
get out
to
to the
get
people.
people to understand. But I think the sad part at the end of the day is when those fines and fees come out and people get hit in the pocket, then they are gonna care. And then we'll just have to deal with that accordingly. There is so much information I feel that we're putting out in these meetings. And these meetings should be standing room only.
Yep.
So we can start doing even better in our communities. But, you know, we're getting there. We're doing a little bit at a time. We're scraping away a little bit at a time. And there are some improvements. But, you know, we just have to do it together.
One quick question. You talked about, you know, 1 can per week. We bought a big old mansion that we're restoring, and every once in a while, we're over the limit, and I gotta put out a second can. Is there a problem doing it once a week, or you know, once a month, or is it by the week, or how would you work something like that? I occasionally have to put out a second can.
I would say that is hard for us to address right now. Ideally, we'd have a situation whereby you could call in and we could generate a bill for that extra can. We're just not up to capacity to be able to do that at the moment. So right now, if you're paying for 1 can, you get 1 can, and we're encouraging you to you know, spread it out over multiple weeks if you can. Or you can upgrade to 2 cans, but we don't have the ability to anything other than on a monthly basis adjust. We don't have the ability to drill down to a weekly basis, but that's something that we could do. Hey, I want to say one thing. One great suggestion that came out of this meeting, the last meeting that we had to do with this newsletter that you mentioned a couple of times, but I think it's important for the public to know. It was suggested we could do a much better job of utilizing our sanitation bills as a means of communicating with the public, and we totally agree with that. You should keep in mind that the city only sort of separated the billing from Capital Region Water in April, so it's only been a couple months. But the idea is, through the EAC's leadership, and we've really been working well, and it's sort of really coming together through these meetings, we have the ability to stuff in those mailers on a monthly basis a newsletter or a means of communicating with the public. And that's going to help a lot. So I know we're developing the EAC budget for next year. It's not that expensive to insert. It doesn't. 1 sheet double-sided will not increase the postal costs. So it's really just a matter of paying to copy and fold, and the machine inserts it. So we're going to do a much better job of that coming forward. So we would welcome other suggestions on things that we need to communicate. I know that's come out of this meeting has been, you know, is this item recyclable? Is this item recyclable? Is this item recyclable? But we're trying to have, you know, a continually updated list as to that. What are the policies regarding bulk items? What do you do if you have an extra can of trash? So I think as a direct result of this meeting, hopefully, we will be much better at communicating, and it won't be this month, but the next month may debut an initial newsletter.
Along that lines too, I did speak with some people. I said, you know, they're putting mailers and stuff in, trying to get information out to you.
Yeah.
They don't look at it.
Right,
People
and
that I
then,
talk
but
to.
then you end up with this problem that I said before, which is it's going to the property owner,
Right.
or it's going to the person who's getting the bill. It's not necessarily going to the tenant. Well, you know, we just have to communicate through every means
avenue.
necessary. And,
Hold
yeah.
on just a
Yeah.
second. Let's let somebody else, please.
Yeah.
Anybody else have a question? I know y'all got questions. Y'all talking, y'all out of the room. There's a lot of conversation that goes on, because I know, because I hear.
I would just like some clarification on some things that we discussed in the last meeting.
Okay.
And that, number one, my first question is, what designates a commercial account? Do these large homes that have been converted to multi-unit dwellings, are they considered a commercial account, or are they still considered a residential account? That's number one.
I'm gonna let Rosemary answer that, but a lot of it has to do with zoning. Zoning plays an important role in that. You wanna answer that for
If
her?
it's 4 units or less, that's a residential property.
It's still considered residential.
Right,
5
and
units is
above
good.
is commercial.
Or an office or a commercial enterprise with any number of units is also considered commercial. But if it's just a 4-unit apartment building, that's considered residential, and those have had their cans distributed. So we're really dealing with businesses, offices, and then the larger units, and then churches and other things that fall on the commercial side.
So that was my first clarification. My second one was that I happen to live on a street that gets the dump from Riverfront Park. The way that the wind blows or whatever, we have leaves that, you know, can be knee-high at times. So in years past and years going forward, we always, as a neighborhood, collect them, bag them, and place them on the side of the street. But I know that we're gonna stop collecting any bags. And I know that you don't have currently we don't have the ability to pick up the leaves also. So if we continue to do that, are we gonna be able to get the leaves picked up in bags?
Yes,
We want you back.
yes, ma'am. And we talked about it last week as far as having a composting site, which us EAC, we talking about. That's something that we're looking forward to having because we don't have any right now. So people who basically take care of their yards, which is there's quite a few people in the city that really take care of their yards, but they don't have nowhere to take it at. So we are responsible and obligated to actually take it. So we have talked to our guys, that we have to take it. Me and Dave just was out there today. Person out in Bellevue had it bundled up nice and neat, had it the way that it's supposed to be by the ordinance. Our guys didn't take it. Well, you can rest assured that we're gonna hold them accountable because they don't want to take it, but because it was a nice little bit, but still we obligated to take it. We're responsible too, but as far as the leaves, we would rather much have it in trash bags for the simple fact that it's easy for us because our street sweepers is not designed to pick up that amount of leaves. But I want you to make sure that you got one of my cars, or anybody with one of these cars. If you do have it, kind of like call me and say, hey, Aaron, I got about 15 bags out there. So we prepared. I might send another truck out there just to go out there and get the amount of calls that I get about that we got, grass, clippings or what have you. And that way we can kind of like set our day up or something like that, that I know I got to go out there and get that kind of stuff. But we encouraging that until we actually can kind of like get this leaf collecting machine and all this stuff that we do need, like the mayor was talking about going into 2016, well, we get more bodies and everything like that so we can be, set up so we can do a much better job than, because it's a challenge out there dealing with all them leaves that, that you see out there.
What about the bags that you want to distribute out to the community for leaf collection?
Yes, my recommendation to the EAC was that we need to purchase some bags from Lowe's or Home Depot, it don't matter. Composting bags so that the residents can get free of charge so they can start putting their stuff in there properly so our guys can recognize and see the bags that they know that they need to take those bags.
But the short answer, just to make it totally clear to those watching at home, is we will pick up the leaves. We do ask that you bag the leaves. We ask that you use the brown paper leaf bags that you can get at a Home Depot or Lowe's. We're in the process of seeing if we can acquire some bags to distribute free of charge, but in the meantime, if you can afford it, please bag the leaves. Don't put the leaves inside the trash totems. Yes. Same thing with yard waste. If you have yard waste, put it in the bags. If you have branches, bundle the branches, tie it so it can be picked up. And that's the short-term answer for what you should do this fall. The longer-term answer is that the city needs to identify a composting site and a yard waste site where we can effectively deal with all this. And number two, we are in the process of upgrading and buying new equipment. The street sweeping equipment that we currently have is pretty much on its last legs, and it doesn't do a good job with leaves. The new equipment that we would like to put in next year's budget and get actually can handle leaves. We're also applying for a new 902 recycling grant, and we're hoping to use a portion from last year's grant to help with a new leaf collector. We already bought a recycling truck, but with a new truck that's going to focus on leaves. Again, this was many years of neglect, sort of all catching up with us at once, and we will be budgeting and focusing on the yard waste and the composting and the leaf and the food waste as we move forward.
And one thing to be clear about, do not push or blow your leaves into the street. A lot of you did that in the past, and the city would come around with these big trucks and pick it up. They don't do that anymore. And if you put the leaves out in the street and it rains, you're creating a hazard on the roads and the streets. They will, if you put them in bags, sanitation will collect them. Don't blow them in the street.
And you won't be charged any extra charge for the leaves of the yard waste. That is in addition to your toter full of trash.
It's one thing I want to add, and something that I encourage. I know some of y'all might be block commanders or what have you. If you didn't know, City Council awarded us $50,000 for our community cleanups. Something that the mayor and City Council done. And if you're block commander or what have you, if you want to set up a community cleanup in your area, you can do that. You give me a call and say, Aaron, I'd like to set up a community cleanup, and we can coordinate that. So at that particular time, we sit down and talk to you, we coordinate it, because appliances is totally different than your household trash and everything. So we have to take that down there, totally separate down there, Dauphin County Recycling. So that's something that we can sit and coordinate with, do it on a Saturday. Hold y'all, responsible as far as passing out the flyers and all that. Just let us take a look at the flyer, make sure that it is acceptable. That's what we do, and that's another way of trying to clean up your alleys and all that. And then it gives you opportunity to see after you clean it up as a community, see how fast it turns back the way you just cleaned all the items up. And it can be very discouraging. Like I said, we ride in the alleys, and after you clean it up, you see it, you be like, wow, it's unbelievable. You be saying, you mean to tell me no one saw them out there dumping that? So, but that's one way of getting your alley clean also, or your neighborhood, and also, trying to bring people together and saying like, we tired of, seeing this look like this. But I encourage that. So, if you want to do something like that, you had that opportunity, because a long time ago we used to, do all that. But you talk about that's when we had that manpower and all that kind of stuff. We had free dumping at the incinerator. Them days is long gone. We don't have them days like that anymore. So we have to do the best what we can do, what we're working with, and that's an option for you.
Jean.
Thanks very much for coming out tonight, and the other evenings you've taken to do these community forums. I had two things I wanted to ask, and one I know is a capacity issue, but I just thought if I said something it might create more awareness. And I got behind a sanitation truck going down 7th Street, all the way, and every time it was compacting and churning, all this garbage was flying out. And when the big can was, lifted up, it was flying out of the cans too. And I don't know how, but that, and then, I read it on some Facebook entries that it was happening in other places in the city. And all that stuff blows around, and it just adds to the sense of, lack of cleanliness in the community. And I didn't know if there's and I know everybody, the trucks are trying to move along and get their job done. If there's any way that can be corrected, that the stuff isn't flying out while the compactor is churning and that, the cans are getting tipped up.
I would just like to answer to that a little bit. I know when it comes down our block, and you're correct, some things get thrown out, missed or whatever. But right now, I can say I have about 4, maybe 5 of my neighbors, because they've been seeing me go out and do it when the trash people leave, clean up right behind them. And that might be something we all might have to do for right now, so we can get, back in the day, if you did do that, they had brooms and shovels on the truck to clean up. We're trying to get the bulk of the stuff out. So if you come down Curtin Street on a trash day, I'll be fussing too. It's like more trash on the street than it is what they took away. Instead of me being frustrated, I just started cleaning it up. So now it's 5 of us, I seen us today, yesterday, do just that. So it was done, we went out and cleaned it. When you look, you can see the street looks a lot better. Some things we're just gonna have to do ourselves for now.
Oh, I agree, and I think I'm sorry that everybody is as nice a neighborhood as, where you're trying to work, because there's something like 7th Street where I was, is an industrial neighborhood.
Right.
And there are not too many residents along there, but there's enough. And I know that it was, I had some reports or heard that it was going on up in, that the garbage trucks were kind of like stuff flying out of them. And I think that's one good solution, and we all need to keep mindful of helping, because we're all in this together to make a better city. It's just that everybody isn't as mindful as they
And that's
might
something
be.
you want to keep saying, and keep saying, and keep saying, because it is, the trash is an issue, and we all get that. But, I want to go
I'm
and
gonna ask
ask.
her a question. So ma'am, you saying when they run in the blade, like if they at your house and they emptying the tire right there, so when they run in the blade, when they running the trash up in the back of the hopper, so you saying it's coming out?
I don't, it goes around like this and somewhere it's compacting the stuff up in there, but it's like, it's coming out the sides. And then, like when the big black ones, the new ones, it has that little lift and it comes up.
Yes, ma'am.
And it was coming out the sides, and all the way up the street. Every time that it was lifted, because that was like maybe 5 blocks behind it, so, and it's just being mindful of, trying to pick it up if they're just standing there waiting for the,
So, okay, so you, some of that's the guys gotta get that. That's what that is. That's just them moving too fast and they gotta pick that up.
awareness, I think, is making everybody aware, that this
And even in
adds
defense
to
of
the
our
list.
guys, I mean, they're front line. We was at one meeting and they came, like around this time, it was going on 8 o'clock and they're just getting off work. I'm not taking up for no bad behavior, that's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is you're correct, they need to be more mindful.
Right.
But I'm just saying, as a
Mindful,
community,
aware.
we also have to step in and do our part as well.
Because you have some neighborhoods that, you got some neighborhoods just really take care of their property, so they want it to look like when you first got there, if it was clean, they want it to be clean when you leave. I understand that. That's where the shovel and broom come in at. I mean, they know how to do all that. But when you see that, you report it like you're doing, we gotta hold people accountable. I mean, it works both ways. Just like they want to make sure all the trash is in that black toter. Well, it's just like you want to make sure that when you leave there, you want it to look like you left it. I mean, it works both ways. We gotta help each other.
Exactly.
So-
Awareness is the beginning.
Any more questions?
Yeah.
Pat Buckley, I live in Bellevue Park. I'm hearing changing stories of how the leaf residue is going to be collected by the city. This is the first meeting where I've heard that we're not going to be allowed to put the leaves into the street. I did miss the last EAC meeting, so perhaps some conversation about time. But I think conversations need to occur between Capital Region Water and the City Department of Public Works because of the consent decree with the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency over our long-term control plan for our stormwater infrastructure. The city is required to do certain things to try to reduce the amount of pollutants going through our stormwater system and overflows. Should the city be making changes in how you're doing your leaf collection in the future, I think it's something where you really need a communication plan. Personally, I'm hoping that the city can get the appropriate equipment to be able to still collect the leaves because while I believe the city can accomplish very great things with the collection of refuse, and I think you're making excellent strides in that department, I think having the residents properly collect and bag the leaves will be a much greater challenge to our infrastructure than taking care of refuse. Thank you.
I would say all you heard tonight was that we're making requests that if you can, to please bag the leaves. We are well aware we're still going to have to be picking up leaves that are in the street. And if you've ever watched that process, it's basically, it can be a bulldozer and a dump truck and a whole bunch of different things. Until we can get better equipment, we're going to have to deal with that. But the clear message we want to send to the average homeowner, and I realize that Bellevue Park is something of an exception because you have so many leaves there, but if you can do it, please bag your leaves, and that will help because every bit of leaves that we can get bagged is a little bit less for us to have to worry about in the city as a whole. And we will communicate a larger strategy once we have both the capacity and the crews to do that as we move forward. So not meaning to send mixed messages, just trying to send the message of please bag your leaves if you can bag your leaves. And then regarding Gene's question about the trash trucks, just wanted to also say there is an issue with the aging trucks themselves. We have done our best to buy new liners and new lifts and to sort of patch them you know, I was behind a very hard-working sanitation crew today for about 45 minutes, and it is an intrinsically messy and dangerous and difficult process. But the newer equipment is better than the older equipment, and we do need to upgrade our compactor fleet. And the current proposal, which is not out yet for the budget for next year, but what we're hoping to do is do basically 2 compactors a year for each of the next several years until we upgrade them to be just better. And that's a part of it too. And if we also at the same time upgrade the number of sanitation workers that we have, it's going to do 2 things. It's going to free up some of the people that are getting pulled from tree trimming and everything else into sanitation. It's going to allow them to go back to the Parks and Rec maintenance, but it's also going to allow the drivers, I think, to slow down a little bit and to be more thoughtful with the sweeping around the dumpster enclosure of the cans as they go along one by one. Right now, they're working a full day. They're working more than a full day. They don't have time to slow down, and that's part of the capacity issue.
Pat, Rafika, let me address what Pat said. Capital Region Water has applied for an individual MS4 permit. That's municipal separate storm sewer permit. That's still pending before the DEP. We are working with the city on street sweeping, where we reimburse a certain percentage of the city's costs. Leaf collection at this point is not included in that, and I'm not sure where that's going down the road. We're working on a green infrastructure plan. We're working on the long-term control plan that you mentioned, the 9 minimum controls. We're still having discussions with DEP. Stay tuned. But there's a lot of good things coming out of Capital Regional Water.
And Bill, who is DEP?
DEP is the State Department of Environmental Protection.
Yes.
My name is Millie Griffin, and the church is at 315 Daisy Street. I have a concern that we own a lot right across the street, and the residents on 14th Street, or some of the residents, are putting their trash out back on that property. And they have put bags, and of course they're torn open, and there have been bags that have been there for weeks, and they're still there. And one of my concerns is being responsible, because it's our property, being fined, you know, when it's not our trash. In the past, we have cleaned it up. I have gone out, cleaned it up, put it in our trash cans, and you know, clean up the area. But you know, they continue, and there's one of the newer garbage cans that sit there, and then there's all that other stuff around it that were bags, plus a television. And in addition to that, on our parking lot, the neighbors from the 15th Street, they put big pieces of furniture and all, you know, on our lot. And then we have to move it or whatever so that we're not fined. So I just have a concern about trash being put on property. And of course, you don't see who does it. And I'm pretty sure the neighbors on 14th Street, they put their trash cans out there, and that those other bags belong to them when they put out the plastic, you know, bag. We have even bought them garbage cans to put the trash in so that we don't have to go out and clean it up, you know. So, I don't know, what do you suggest we do in a situation?
Does the church have the ability to purchase a camera or a security camera? Do you have anything on your lot? I would think that if you were able to put a camera, which could be relatively inexpensive, that may solve the problem. And it would at least give us something to work with, because we'd then be able to identify who's putting out the trash. I don't know, do you have like a security system at all?
Yes.
Yeah, so it could just be a matter of adding in one camera, getting an external camera, and focusing it on the lot. I'm sure that would help us.
Any other questions?
I have one quick question. If we have money to buy security cameras, who can tell us what we should get, for the illegal dumping on churches
Oh, that's a good
and then
question.
parking lots and that kind of thing? Okay, Jeremy.
All right. Do you want to advise the church right now on what they might want to get for a camera? You're on
Real
TV.
quick, it's very, very inexpensive for about $120 at Walmart, actually, or you can buy it online. I don't do anything online. They have a very comparable, it's infrared, it's playback for up to 40 days, and it just hooks to any type of monitor, computer monitor, TV, or anything. It's called a Nighthawk, a night owl, I'm sorry. And they have them in stock. I've mounted like 14 different systems throughout, and I'm very surprised because we have a camera right now on Daisy Alley, off of Swatera.
No,
Oh,
this
the
is
other side,
closer,
okay.
yes.
Okay.
It's closer to Dairy Street.
Okay. If
Where
anybody
the
wants
old
to go up
farmhouse,
further, there's cameras, you can go clear up. We have 2 cameras deployed right now, $1,200 a piece, but they're specifically to pick up license plates from illegal dumpers. Their lens is specifically designed for that. So it could come when the time's up for you to need that, it'll be available. We have 2 and we operate them on a rotational. If you need it, we'll get it over and mounted somewhere for you. Okay?
Excellent information, thank you. Questions?
Just one other question. I leave the city to go to work every day, so I drive up Second. And I have noted that around the governor's mansion, there's somebody out there at, 7:15 every morning, and he is sweeping up the street and cleaning it up. Of course, it is the governor's mansion, I understand that. Has anything or any thought process been put into maybe visiting these commercial accounts and getting them, having a sit down and talking to them and saying, this is our new trash policies, these are gonna be enforced, and would you get on board to maybe get your property manager the first thing in the morning, the first 15 minutes of every morning, or every other morning, or even once a week, to go out and clean up around your property that is sitting in our city? And that would also help you guys and free you guys up from doing the stuff that you have.
Aren't y'all having conversations with some of the commercial people and trying to get people on board? And I know, John, you're talking to a lot of commercial businesses and trying to switch over the accounts and educating them and bringing them up to speed of what's going on, sure.
A responsible business should do that. I can tell you, we spend a lot of time, I'll just give you my personal business side of things, in the Midtown Scholar. We are constantly, every day, out there sweeping the sidewalks, sweeping the curbs, emptying the public trash can, which is out there, going around, sweeping out the dumpster enclosure, being in the alley. And that's part of being a responsible business owner. You are responsible not just for what happens inside your store, but what happens in front of and around your store. That is a message that we have got to get out, and it is helpful to the more we have business associations or business organizations or neighborhood groups or others that we can partner with to get that message out, the better. But I know these guys say it on a regular basis, but it is essentially the responsibility of these individual businesses to do it, to step up.
Well, it's just like it's the residents.
And the residents too, but you were talking about businesses, yes.
Obviously, they're not doing it either.
Go ahead,
But
John.
one of the things that we want to promote to everybody in the city eventually are the ordinances that are to, excuse me. We want to inform the public about the city ordinances that cover this kind of thing. And I'm here to tell you that the city ordinances couldn't be more to the point, more brief, and more commonsensical, if you will, on this subject. everybody needs to see these ordinances. Is that a property owner is responsible for maintaining cleanliness and order, et cetera, et cetera. It's very, very straightforward. And again, I hate to have to keep going back to the business of the enforcement aspect of this, but this is what we want to get to. We want to be able to say, you are supposed to keep this clean, you're supposed to keep your trees trimmed, your bushes trimmed, the sidewalk patched, all these different things you're responsible for, and if you don't do it, you're going to be fined. And it's very simple, and the best part about the ordinance is that they're the essence of civilization. I mean, they're very, very basic. And if people would just follow these things, everything would be just great. Well, we need to show people what they are and what they better do about it.
One of the community programs we have is called 2 Minute Tuesday. And although it's largely in residential areas, that we encourage people every Tuesday, take 2 minutes out of your day and sweep up in front of your house. We also are trying to encourage commercial accounts to do the same. Many of them have these posters that you've seen around various places around town and in the neighborhoods for 2 Minute Tuesday. Maybe what we need to consider is additional carrots and incentives, such as some kind of a green sticker for those businesses that properly recycle and maintain their properties. Maybe that's something we should consider next year.
Any more questions?
I have a comment, and it's not related to trees or trash, but it's more related to the playgrounds and the rehabilitation of the playgrounds, which I think is fantastic. And I know they've been doing a lot of work on 4th Street, the 4th Street playground. And I want to add, I know you're stretched in terms of enforcement, but you know, if as a community we take care of the small things, then it won't be so hard or difficult to enforce the larger things. And it's been many, many, many years since this city has really paid attention to the enforcement of our laws in the city. So I know we're going toward that, but with the playgrounds, and I'm not adverse to people having animals. I have 3 grand dogs myself, but dogs should not be permitted on the playgrounds where you have people, their children, and so forth, and they let their dogs defecate all over the place, and my daughter has a daycare, okay? I can't tell you how many times they come back in with poopy shoes, which just got to keep them on the porch. They take them to the playground, they like to roll, they like to play in the grass, they like to have fun. And there are signs, but they're not that visible. And I had to stop a lady about 2 weeks ago. She had a huge German Shepherd, huge. And she asked me to stop and not bring the children over until she got control of her dog. I mean, this dog was huge. And I said, well, you shouldn't have your dog here anyway. You know, your dog doesn't belong on the playground. This is for children, families, et cetera, et cetera. And she said, well, nothing says that. Well, there's a little tiny sign. And she said, well, the police see me bring my dog over, and I was only stopped one time, and that's when I didn't have him on a leash. And he stopped me and said, your dog has to be put on a leash, but he didn't stop her from bringing the dog to the playground. Now, some residents are very mindful, and they will pick up after their animals. But a whole lot of people won't, because I know even in residential neighborhoods, people will walk their dogs and let their dogs do their business on your lawn. I've had to deal with it and go say to people, you need a bag, you know, and they don't care. But those are the small things. It's just like coming out and sweeping out in front of your house. And so, you know, and we talk about criminals, well, you're breaking the law when you're not following the ordinances of the city. So, you know, it's like sin. Is yours any greater than mine? I just think that with the rehabbing of the playgrounds, the city needs to post larger signs so that they're visible to people and it be enforced. And Aaron, some of your people, and I've been there because I've been telling people, please don't let your dog do that. Pick up after your dog. And your guys have been there to cut the grass. And they have thanked me because they said, you know, you should have to cut the grass behind all of this when stuff's flying back into their faces and so forth. So I know that's not what we're here for tonight, but since I have an opportunity to express it, I've done so.
But I'm glad you brought that up because you took all that right out my mouth. I was going to mention that because as this is an issue, we have talked about it, not so much in our forums, but I think in one of our meetings, and we started posting some things about dog poop. And that's floating around now on our Facebook page. It's an environmental hazard. It is an issue. It is trash. It pollutes our waterways. It does so much because people do not clean up behind their animals. And going back to Reservoir Park, our parks, Riverfront Park, where you guys have to clean, etc. I remember over the years, that's been a complaint. People do not curl their dogs or clean behind their dogs. They gotta go cut grass and then they get all that feces thrown back on them. So that is something that we do need to look at more, force more. It is a trash issue. It is an environmental issue. And I'm just, like I said, you just took all that out of my mouth. We want to put that out here. That is something that we've been talking about and we want to move forward on it. I really would like to see a ban of the dogs in the playgrounds and parks, period. And maybe look at an area that we can have a dog park. I know there's been some conversation about it, where people can take their dogs, but they still have to be responsible in their own dog park. So, animal doo-doo is a problem here in the city, and that's something we'll have to talk a little bit more about, so we can come up with. But there are ordinances and things on it.
They just had Wolfstock. I know they had Wolfstock Sunday, which they do a real good job of educating people about, the dog. I have seen that program grown over the years. It really is a nice program down there. I know they, from neutering, from the whole 9 yards about taking care of animals, period. It's a real good program down there. But just to piggyback off you, Ms. Gloria, your signs could be a little bit, bigger. But the other problem is, we used to have park rangers. Park rangers used to ride around and they didn't catch everything, but they caught some things. And then certain playgrounds would do certain things. Right. You know what I mean? We only have one park ranger right now. She's back. She's experienced because she was there before. But at one time we had like 6. I remember when we used to have a little cap gun and fire the geese away because the geese was doing all that. That's where Italian Lake you couldn't walk around. You had all that geese mess and all that stuff. So it's a lot of things that we used to do that we don't do anymore and because of the budget and everything like that. And like I said, going into 2016, the things that we need to protect. Something. If you look at well, I'll give you an example right now. You look at Sunken Gardens. We just did that with Midtown. That Midtown group that came down there. You look at Sunken Gardens now. You go inside there. It looks real good, but it's not artificial. It's going to grow again. Again, we don't have the manpower to maintain that. We used to be hands-on with that. We had 2 guys that used to do that. That's all they did. And it looked like $1 million every time you go past it. Somebody wanted to get married. It wasn't no issue. You know what I mean? It's the same thing with the dogs now. You have a lot of people on Riverfront. They don't do what they used to do. Even like with some of them cans we talk about, the receptacles right in front of the corner store. You'd be surprised how much waste is in there. Dog waste. You'd be surprised. And you got a lot of that in there. It's pretty heavy. Even when we go to the residence, be surprised how much waste they have in there that we deal with. But far as the playgrounds, we do need to have a little bit of better signage and stuff. I agree with that. That's something that I can have our sign guys do. That's an easy fix. Just the other thing is just that go back to enforcement. You can't emphasize that enough. That we have to hold people accountable because you can have all the signs up in the world. People ignore signs. They still gonna do what they want to do. And we do have quite a bit of daycares that utilize our facilities, and they really enjoy using the facilities. But I have people called in and basically stated the same thing that you just stated.
Do we still have a sign department?
Yes, traffic engineers.
We should be able to make better signs. That's certainly part of it. I would just say that the other thing to note is that even the one park ranger that we have is also a new hire within the past year. So it's another example of trying to build capacity step by step.
I want to bring Eric in a little bit. We've been talking a lot about trash. Haven't had a chance to talk a little bit about trees. And for the last, say, 10 minutes, throw a little question at you about trees. But there's one thing that I do notice about in our community. People, when they put up signs and posters, etc., should they put them on our trees?
No.
And if they do, how does that impact our trees?
Absolutely should not post anything on trees. Just the other day, someone called me down to come assess one of their trees for them, and he was someone who cared a lot about his trees, and he had 2 big 4-inch screws right into him posting about his street sweeping because he didn't think there was enough signs. So I told him everything he wanted to know about his tree, and then I let him know that he had to remove his sign too. So how it impacts a tree, it goes in through the bark, which is basically the protective skin of the tree, then through all the xylem, phloem, cambium, which moves nutrients, water up and down the tree to the leaves, to the roots. So it does injure, causes a wound. Tree has to heal that over, can't focus on growing and growing its leaves out and doing all that the tree already has. All these other fighting conditions in the city, curbs, soil, lacking nutrients, all those types of things.
So the tree is just like us, if we get cut and bruised, it has to go through that whole healing process.
100%, yeah.
To get well again. We were just talking about animals, and people not curbing their dogs, and they go to trees and do what they need to do. What kind of impact does that have on our tree?
Not,
or if any at all?
Not on a mature tree, not much at all.
On a mature tree?
Yeah, smaller shrubs, and I guess a tree with very thin, you'd call it green bark, or really low branches that if the dog hits the leaf, then it would have an impact. But on a tree with thick enough bark, no impact at all.
We talked a little bit at the last meeting. There's a lot of people in our community that are growing gardens and planting all kinds of stuff. And I had mentioned about certain trees, and you had talked about certain trees should be planted in their yard, considering fruit trees, not apple trees, because the street sweepers can't pick up that kind of vegetation, etc. We also talked about people who are planting around our signs and our light posts. Give me your opinion about that.
Well, anything that climbs shouldn't be planted. If the sign is in a planting pit, you can have a small decorative planting like this. I see a lot of hostas or black-eyed Susans or something like that. That's fine. But if it's, I think you had said there was beanstalks and things like wisteria or ivy or anything that's going to climb and block and impair vision or do anything like that, that should not be planted on a sign.
Would any of that be considered illegal if someone's caught planting that kind of stuff?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So it would be another enforcement piece.
Yes, yeah.
Can you also let our community know, we talked a little bit about the past couple of meetings, and because we have new people here, the types of trees that would be acceptable in the city for planting from I know there's a tree list, but just give us a few names that people would be familiar with that they might want to think about planting on their property. It's
mainly the hardwoods that are common in the area, do well in the city. Maple, if you have a large enough site, maple, oak, ginkgo. Ginkgo's a great one. As you get smaller, there's golden rain tree, which is a really popular street tree. There's katsuras, which don't do great in drought tolerant, but if it's a little shady and somewhere where they're getting a little care, they're a great street tree. We took pears off the list. Pears are not a good street tree. Linden.
Walnuts?
Walnuts are not a good street tree either. They're a fine backyard tree if that's what you want, but in the street, no. Anything that produces a large fruit like that, or nut, or anything is not good.
Next question, I wanted to ask you a little bit about trees that you're plagued with a lot in the community, and it came up in a couple of our meetings. A lot of property owners have trees in their backyard, and they find their way into our septic tank, to our pipes. Give us some recommendations on some things we can use and how we can handle that.
Well, there's a lot of different types of planting in your planting pit now. If you were to plant a new tree, you could put root barrier around your, let's say you have a 4x4 pit that you cut out in your sidewalk. You could dig out that soil and put its 18 to 24 inch plastic corrugated root barrier, and it will divert the roots away from any utilities that you have over there. So that's one method. Planting the right tree is another. If if you have, and picking the right location, if you have your known septic 18 inches to your planting pit, maybe move your planting pit over and don't put a tree right there. It's been argued that trees will never break a terracotta pipe. They will only follow a crack and seek out water. Once it's in there, then the tree will grow and break the terracotta, but it won't actively puncture the terracotta. But terracotta is going to have breaks, cracks already, so they will follow water, and then once it's in there, it grows and it will break. So just be mindful of where your utilities are and what you're putting in the ground next to it.
So I have an old tree in my yard right now that I like, but I am having that kind of problem. Would I have to cut it down?
Would you have to? We just did we issued a permit for a gentleman that he said for 10 years he spent over $10,000 fixing his septic, and because he didn't want to lose his tree. And finally he said, I've lost this battle. Can I have the permit? You know, I have the documentation to back it up. We went there and you could see that he just had a sidewalk ripped up and there was some sign of septic work done. So that's up to you. That's a personal decision. If it's something that is happening every 2 or 3 years and you can just clean out your line and you're okay with that, then that's up to you. But if you don't want it to get any worse, then that's when you could call me and we could issue a permit.
If I need to trim my trees on my property, do I need to contact you for permits to do that?
Trees in the right of way, yes.
What about in my yard?
No.
Is the city capable of, I know this answer, but I'm just gonna put it out. Is the city capable of, or will the city in the future say if I can't maintain my tree? But I would ask you or your staff to come out and do that. And requesting you to bill me for that. Is that something we're looking at doing in the future?
That is definitely something we're looking at doing in the future. And also, we would maintain your tree if you were a senior citizen and an owner occupant of that property, as well as we will clear for stop signs, school signs, street signs. Just the other day, a call came in from 311 that they couldn't see the blinking traffic sign on 3rd and Division, and we went there and we were out in the bucket truck because we had to put up a banner for Woodstock, and we were on the way, so we could clear that up. And so calling 311 does help. We do respond to it, and even though that is not necessarily city's responsibility, we understand the safety issue, so we would like to step in and help as much as we can with that.
Last question I'm gonna ask you before we close this evening. We have a storm. Trees come down in our community, in the street. What do we do?
The city will clear the street. First, that's what they'll do. And most times, it's not just your tree that came down. It's every other neighborhood and all their trees. So if we come through and we'll cut, tree might be on your sidewalk, your neighbor's sidewalk, close to your front steps. It's just because we have a small crew of guys that have to open the streets for the entire city. We need streets open for emergency vehicles, ambulances, everything you can imagine. So that's the first step. After that, it is the homeowner's responsibility. That is their tree. We're working right now on if the city can come back and clean it up, would we be able to charge a fee to compensate ourselves? In the past, we have cleaned up some trees. I know there has been some that have been left too, as long as they're out of the sidewalk, as long as they're out of the street, and there's room to leave that tree in the grass strip. And then sometimes the homeowners do want it themselves. They like firewood for the fireplace, wood stove. So.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
I just want to get some of that tree information in here a little bit.
And if you want more tree information, we do have some handouts here. There's benefits of trees, how to prune young shade trees, since now everyone knows it's their responsibility, and some planting tree information, stuff for kids. There's crossword puzzles in there. We do have our approved street tree list and a coupon for buying trees through Tree Vitalize. I'm not 100% sure which nurseries are on this. I know there are some in Dauphin County, York County, and Cumberland County that are participating in this. It's $15 off a shade tree. So all that is there. And I think there's also a Penn State Extension pamphlet on stormwater management and the role that trees and vegetation play in that.
Yes, ma'am.
This is not a question, it's a recommendation or suggestion that, you know, a lot of state agencies utilize the opportunity when you renew your license. Do you want to give a dollar donation toward something? Maybe since we're considering using utility bills to inform and educate the residents of the city, we could also have something on there asking if they'd like to pay an extra $1 to make a donation to our tree fund, so that when the city has to cut down trees, or if we have to cut down trees, that the trees, there's a pot of money that can be used to replace those trees, so that we don't have streets that look like Beirut, because all the trees have been cut down and they have not been replaced because the property owners can't afford it or don't care whether they have a tree or not.
And that's something we can look at through grants too. And then all the city would have to do after applying for the grant and before even being awarded the grant is
Well,
get
grants are good, but they come
permission
and go.
from, right, right.
This is something that if we had in our utility bills and asked people, it's something that would stay around longer. And, I mean, you could still go for your grants, that's a good thing. You could probably use that as a match or something. But I'm just saying that if you get citizens accustomed, we're saying we're in this together, it's our city, we want to keep it beautiful, and so why not ask them for $1?
Well,
It'd be great.
We have the ability to do that, and I think it's a good suggestion. And Rafika, let's consider something like that in the next newsletter.
Oh, definitely, we could definitely consider something like that. Just before we close, I do want to mention, I've been talking to Eric that we might have a capacity of growing our own trees here that we can buy from ourselves through our greenhouses that we have down in Stilton. So that's also something that we can consider as well. I want to thank the community very, very much for coming out this evening to our third Talking Trash and Trees Community Forum. Our next Talking Trash and Trees Community Forum will be on October 8th, which will be back at the Public Works Facility at 1820 Patrick Street. Thank you so much.